Sometimes a single act of kindness can change a life forever. Ethan Walker had nothing, but when he helped a lost child, everything changed. What would you have done in his place? Have you ever witnessed a moment where kindness made all the difference? Tell us in the comments below and let us know where you're watching from. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Another powerful story is coming tomorrow, and you won't want to miss it. See you in the next one. He woke up surrounded by police. The reason will leave you speechless. Ethan Walker pulled his tattered jacket tighter around himself as the evening air grew colder. The streets of Denver, Colorado had been his home for the past few years, a far cry from the life he once had. He used to have a job, a family, and a future. But life had been cruel, stripping him of everything and leaving him to survive on nothing but hope and instinct. Each night, he found shelter on the same park bench, and each morning he woke up to the same struggle: finding food, staying warm, and avoiding the judgmental stares of passersby. But tonight felt different. The air was still, the city quieter than usual, the hum of distant traffic blending with the occasional rustling of leaves. As Ethan sat under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, he heard a sound that made him sit up, a soft, muffled sob. He turned his head toward the playground, his eyes scanning the darkened park. There, near the swings, stood a small child, no older than 5. The boy's tiny shoulders shook as he cried, his hands balled into fists at his sides. Ethan hesitated. People avoided him, judged him, assumed the worst. If he approached, would the boy scream? Would someone think he was a threat? He had seen the looks before, the way strangers clutched their purses tighter when he walked by, the way people crossed the street to avoid him, but none of that mattered now. A child was in trouble. Ethan slowly stood, keeping his movements careful and non-threatening. As he walked toward the boy, his worn sneakers barely made a sound against the pavement. Kneeling down a few feet away, he softened his voice. "Hey, buddy, are you lost?" The boy sniffled, wiping his face with his sleeve. His wide, tear-filled eyes met Ethan's. I can't find my mommy." Ethan's heart clenched. He knew that feeling all too well, the fear of being alone, the ache of being forgotten. He forced a small, reassuring smile. "It's okay," he said gently. "We'll find her." Slowly, he held out his hand. The child hesitated, but then reached forward, his tiny fingers wrapping around Ethan's rough, calloused ones. Together, they walked toward the park entrance, hoping someone was looking for him. And just a few minutes later, someone was. As Ethan led the boy toward the park entrance, his grip on the child's small hand remained firm but gentle. He could feel the boy trembling, his sniffles still breaking through the silence of the empty park. Ethan knew fear well. It had been his companion for years. But no child should have to feel this kind of fear. Then, suddenly, a voice pierced through the quiet night. "Ben!" Ethan turned just in time to see a woman sprinting toward them, her face twisted with panic. Her heels clicked against the pavement, her breath ragged, her eyes locked on the little boy. The moment Ben saw her, he let go of Ethan's hand and ran straight into her arms. "Mommy!" The woman dropped to her knees, clutching the boy so tightly it was as if she were afraid he might disappear again. Tears ran down her face as she stroked his hair, whispering words only a mother could say in a moment like this. Ethan took a small step back, giving them space. He had done what he could. The kid was safe. That was all that mattered. Then, suddenly, the woman's teary eyes turned toward him. For the first time in years, someone looked at Ethan not with suspicion, not with pity, but with pure, unfiltered gratitude. "Oh my God, thank you," she choked out, still holding her son close. "Thank you so much." Ethan shook his head slightly. "You don't have to thank me. I just did what anyone would do." But the woman wasn't convinced. No, not just anyone would stop to help. Her voice was shaky, her hands still gripping her son. "What's your name?" Ethan hesitated. He wasn't used to people wanting to know his name. "Ethan," he said simply. The woman, still holding Ben, reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. "Please, let me give you something. You saved my son." Ethan took another step back, shaking his head. "No need, ma'am. Just take care of your boy." She looked at him for a long moment, as if memorizing his face. Then she gave him a nod. A silent thank you that felt more powerful than words. Without another word, Ethan turned and walked back toward his usual bench. He didn't know that this one small act of kindness was about to change his life forever. The next morning, Ethan woke to the familiar chill of the Denver air, the rough texture of the park bench pressing against his back. Another day, another struggle. He rubbed his hands together, trying to shake off the stiffness in his fingers. The night before felt like a dream, helping that little boy, seeing his mother's relief. But dreams didn't change reality. He was still homeless, still invisible to the world. Or so he thought. A sudden noise pulled him from his thoughts, the unmistakable sound of boots on pavement. He sat up, his heart pounding. A group of uniformed officers was approaching. Their faces were unreadable, their movements too deliberate. Ethan's instincts screamed at him. When you live on the streets, cops usually mean trouble. One officer, a tall man with a stiff posture, stepped forward. Ethan Walker? Ethan's breath hitched. He didn't run, didn't argue. Instead, he slowly raised his hands, his voice rough from sleep. I don't understand. Did I do something wrong? The officers exchanged a glance, then the lead officer shook his head. No, Ethan, we're here because of what you did last night. Ethan's confusion deepened. What he did last night? Helping a lost kid? That's what brought the police? His muscles tensed. Had someone accused him of something? Did they think he was trying to take the boy? Before he could ask another question, the low hum of an approaching vehicle filled the air. A sleek black SUV rolled up, its polished surface almost out of place in the worn-down surroundings. The back door opened, and Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The woman from last night. She stepped out, her movements quick and purposeful, her eyes scanning the area until they locked onto Ethan. She wasn't just a relieved mother anymore. She carried herself differently now, with authority. Ethan sat frozen as she approached. The officers around him weren't here to arrest him. They were waiting for her. She stopped just a few feet away, offering him a small, knowing smile. I've been looking for you all morning. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. Why would someone like her be looking for someone like him? Ethan's mind raced. Why would she be looking for him? He had done nothing but help a lost child, and now he was surrounded by cops and standing in front of a woman who clearly held power. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. The woman stepped closer, her sharp eyes scanning his face. My name is Julia Hayes, she said, her voice steady but warm. I don't think I properly introduced myself last night. Ethan nodded slowly, unsure of what to say. The officers remained where they were, hands resting casually at their sides, not aggressive, but still watching. Julia continued, You didn't just help my son, Ethan. You reminded me that kindness still exists. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. He wasn't used to people talking about kindness, not when it came to him. Most people barely looked at him, let alone thanked him. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. I believe in second chances, she said, holding it out to him. If you want one, this is yours. Ethan hesitated before slowly taking the envelope, his hands trembling slightly. The paper was thick, expensive, nothing like the scraps of paper he was used to handling. He flipped it open, his breath catching in his throat. Inside was a job offer. A real, legitimate job. Not just that, an apartment was included. His heart pounded. This had to be a mistake. He glanced up at her, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't understand. Why would you do this for me? Julia smiled, but there was something deeper in her eyes. Understanding. Because someone once gave me a second chance when I needed one, she said. Now I'm passing it on. Ethan's fingers clenched around the envelope. For years, he had been invisible. For years, he had been nothing more than a face people looked past. Now someone was standing in front of him, offering him a way out. His throat tightened. He had stopped believing in miracles a long time ago. And yet, here one was, standing right in front of him. Ethan stared at the paper in his hands, his mind struggling to process what was happening. A job, an apartment, a chance to rebuild everything he had lost. It didn't feel real. His fingers tightened around the envelope as he looked back up at Julia. You don't even know me, he said, his voice rough with disbelief. How do you know I deserve this? Julia didn't flinch. Instead, she gave him a small, knowing smile. Because I saw the kind of man you are when you thought no one was watching. You had nothing. and yet you still helped my son. That tells me everything I need to know." Ethan felt his throat tighten. How long had it been since someone looked at him and saw more than just a homeless man? For years, he had learned to expect nothing from the world. People passed by without a second glance. Strangers averted their eyes, pretending he didn't exist. He had accepted that this was his life now, just surviving, just making it through one more day. But now, someone was offering him more. He looked back down at the envelope. It felt heavy, not just in weight, but in meaning. This was more than a job. It was proof that his life wasn't over. His hands trembled as he swallowed hard. "I don't know what to say," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Julia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Say yes." Ethan let out a shaky breath. Could he do this? Did he have it in him to start over? The doubt clawed at him, but beneath it was something else. Hope. For the first time in years, he saw a way out. His fingers clenched around the envelope, and he met Julia's gaze. For the first time in a long time, someone had given him a reason to believe in himself again. A tear slipped down his cheek, and he quickly wiped it away. He hadn't cried in years. Then, finally, he whispered the words that would change his life forever. Yes. Sometimes, life has a way of turning when we least expect it. Ethan Walker had nothing to give except kindness, and in return, he was given something even greater, a second chance. His story proves that a single moment of compassion can change a life forever. What do you think about Ethan's decision? If you were in his shoes, would you have taken the job, or would fear and doubt have held you back? Have you ever experienced or witnessed an act of kindness that changed someone's life? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know, where are you watching from? We love hearing from viewers all around the world. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Tomorrow, we're bringing you another life-changing moment, and trust us, you won't want to miss it. Drop a comment, let's talk about it, and we'll see you in the next one.